and radioed for help. This footage was filmed by the Hawaiian Coast Guard, who flew beside him in a C-130 Hercules, coaching him on how to land the tiny plane in the heavy Pacific swell. Under the circumstances, it's an amazing landing, and the sprightly OAP is out of the cockpit and in the arms of a rescue swimmer in seconds. The plane sank. The pilot escaped with minor injuries. How he explains it all to the plane's owner, we'll never know. It's 2006. This TNT cargo plane departed from Liège in Belgium en route to London's Stansted Airport. It's already had one disastrous landing today. Now it's preparing for an emergency landing here at Birmingham International. The pilots have already made the mistake that will cost them their jobs, but their biggest challenge is yet to come. They have to land a crippled plane. This plane crashed into the ground at Nottingham, East Midlands, less than an hour ago, after the pilot accidentally switched off his autopilot system, just as it was in the middle of landing the plane in dense fog. The crew of two managed to get the plane back in the air. The right-hand landing gear has been ripped from the aircraft. They are going to have to land this 56-ton plane on one set of wheels. The two pilots, still coming to terms with one crash landing, are about to be put through a serious test of their ability and nerve. Emergency services are standing by at Birmingham International, and it's all being filmed by a West Midlands police helicopter.
Well, you see the wing rising there. That's not a disaster about to happen. That's the pilot trying to keep it on the left gear for as long as possible, so that when the right wing comes down and hits the tarmac, it won't be such a big impact, and therefore less risk of the engine being torn off.
This landing has gone well, so far, but the pilots aren't out of danger yet. The engine is scraping along the tarmac, spitting red-hot sparks of metal just a few feet from their fuel tanks. If the tanks are ruptured, the results could be catastrophic. Firefighters spring into action, dousing the plane with fire-retardant foam, until finally, all is safe. While the two pilots were praised for landing the plane in such difficult circumstances, they were both fired for their role in the earlier accident. This is Leeds Bradford International Airport. At 681 feet above sea level, it is the highest airport in England, guaranteeing it more than its fair share of high winds. The problem for pilots is that Leeds only has one runway, so there is no plan B if a crosswind is blowing. You either land or go elsewhere. But of all the jaw-dropping landings that have touched down at Leeds Bradford, one stands out above all others.
Another one moves coming back.
Wind safety limits. The captain appears unsure whether to touch down. Then, with a blast of his 4 Rolls-Royce engines, he roars off, landing a few minutes later to huge applause.
Fastest plane in the world, that was, Concorde.
The French captain told local journalists that his first approach was all part of his grand entrance. Not everyone was convinced. It's March the 1st, 2008. Once again, winds are the problem. Extratropical cyclone Emma is wreaking havoc throughout Central Europe. In Germany, gusts are reaching 60 miles an hour. Inside this flight from Munich to Hamburg, passengers and crew are feeling the effects of some seriously strong crosswinds. The pilot has a decision to make: abort the landing and go elsewhere, attempt to go around and try again, or take the landing on. This pilot appears to be feeling confident. It might look like the plane is being blown all over the place, but this pilot is doing what is known as crabbing, a crucial skill in this kind of landing.
I call it crabbing because you're moving effectively sideways into the wind, and it looks extraordinary. And then, the last minute, which is why pilots love it so much, they kick the rudder. You know, I mean, how many opportunities do you get to kick the rudder on a commercial airliner? Brings it on straight, and on it goes.
But before he kicks the rudder, a huge gust of wind hits the plane. It lurches to one side, and then, the worst case scenario, the wing hits the runway. That kind of impact can flip a plane right over, sending it cartwheeling down the runway.
The aircraft quite clearly wasn't stabilised on its approach to that landing, and I think should have been thrown away at a much earlier stage. He should have made it go around much sooner, but he persisted, hoping it was going to come right, and clearly it didn't come right at all.
It's a terrifying moment for all on board. With no options left, the pilot powers up his two engines to try and pull the plane back into the air. It works. The pilot regains control and climbs to safety, landing the plane shortly afterwards on another, less windy runway. The ground. Fireproof foam has been sprayed on the runway, but as it scrapes along the tarmac surface, fires are breaking out along the bottom of the aircraft. Inside the plane, the drama is being filmed by one of the passengers. His fellow travellers desperately bracing themselves as the aircraft slides down the runway. Then finally, the Boeing 767 comes to a halt. Initially, passengers applaud in relief, but then, as they notice the black smoke seeping into the cabin, there is mass panic.
Please look for that on the big slide.
A380 is in its final descent into Heathrow Airport. There are 500 people on board. It's a miserable night. Suddenly, several hundred million volts of electricity blast straight into the roof of the cockpit. What happens next is truly shocking. Absolutely nothing. The plane carries on as normal, and it lands moments later with no ill effects.
When they're struck by lightning, the conductivity is around the outside of the aircraft. It goes to the other end of the aircraft and leaves the aircraft, and there is just not a problem. So it can make a bit of a noise and a big flash. Sometimes the flash is quite blinding, but you know that it's not actually going to affect the aircraft.